Okay, in this video I wanted to talk a little bit more about confidence intervals and building them. I wanted to begin by just showing you a page of the AP Statistics exam formula sheet. So when you take the exam, you get a sheet of formulas. This is the third page, and you see if you're looking for it, I would urge you to go online and look at this to know what you're being given, or look it up, in a packet or something that's been given to you. But the Roman numeral 3 is inferential statistics. And again, this is the whole point of stats, right? We've talked about good samples. We've talked about using probability. We've talked about displaying data. But really it comes down to we are trying to project onto the population based on a sample. Going down here to confidence intervals. Statistic plus or minus critical value multiplied by standard deviation of statistic. And then below that, and I cut it off because this is all we're working with right now, but you get a whole table of things. And what you see here is, the sample means are your statistics, and then your standard deviation goes here, and then this critical value is Z star. So from the previous video, you saw the formula that we use for the snow plowing problem, and I just wanted you to see, okay, p hat, so a sample proportion, right, that goes here, plus or minus, we calculated that Z, or we looked at the table for the Z statistic value, and then the standard deviation of the statistic is from right here. So you don't need to necessarily memorize the formulas, you just need to know how to fill in the blanks, right, statistic, critical value, and that. Okay. Now, a lot of times people on the AP exam will use their calculator to do this. The reason I really point this out is there are times where you may want to actually solve for a piece of this, like maybe the sample size. Say, well, if I wanted to make the margin of error smaller, what sample size would I need? And then it's nice to know the formula for margin of error, to know this part of it, and know, that this is your margin of error right here. Margin of error, and this over here is your point estimate. Okay? All right, let's build an example. A simple random sample of 400 social media users is taken concerning political posts. The survey finds that 280 users want to see less political posts posted on their feeds. Create a 99% confidence interval for the proportion of all social media users. All right, so the first thing, remember, is state. Okay, in the interest of time, I've typed this. Build a 99% confidence interval for the proportion of all social media users who wish to see less political posts. I know it always feels tedious to rewrite this, but it really is important to say really that you understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to, from a sample, make an inference about the population. All right, the next piece of this is, remember, plan. Well, we had a simple random sample, so that's good. 400 was our sample size. That's definitely less than or equal to 1/10 all social media users. I'm going to use some abbreviations just for time. Okay. Condition 2, recall, is 400 multiplied by 280 over 400, which of course is 280. That's got to be bigger than 10. And then the 400 multiplied by the complement, so 1 minus 280 over 400, which of course is 120, is also bigger than 10. So we have fulfilled all conditions. So now let's do. So if we'd like to use the formula and do 280 divided by 400 to see what our p hat is, our p hat plus or minus Z star multiplied by the square root of p hat times 1 minus p hat all over n. Our p hat, 280 over 400, is 0.7. So we'd have 0.7 plus or minus. I'm going to leave the little space for my Z star, and I'm just going to write 0.7, 1 minus 0.7, over 400. Now again, you could figure out Z star using the normal curve. You could say, well, it's, I have to cut off 0.5% on either end. I could use inverse norm to do that. But remember, on table B, this has been calculated for us. Let me bring table B in. Here is the bottom of table B. So here you can see 99%. Right above that is the Z star that we're going to use, 2.576. And again, it's not that you're going to necessarily use the formula that often. You probably will use your calculator for most of this calculation, and I'll show you again how to do that in a second. But it is good to know how this formula was put together, because sometimes you may have to do some algebra on a piece of it. So remember, you press the stat button and you go to tests and you find letter A, one proportion Z interval. We have 280 out of 400. We're doing the 99 confidence level, and then you'd hit calculate, and there is your interval once you've calculated with this. So again, know the formula, know where it comes from, know how to find it in that in the formula sheet, but most of the time you'll use the calculator. And now the last thing is, let's conclude now that we have the numbers. Okay, we are 99% confident that the interval from 0.64 to 0.76 captures the proportion of all social media users who wish to see less political posts. Okay, so please remember this four-step process. I know parts of it seem like a lot of writing. What you have to remember is on the AP exam, there's only going to be one problem that's like this, that requires this. And I always say, the stats free response questions are 4 points. So if writing these four things gets you those 4 points out of a total of 24 free response points, it's worth it to do the writing, even though it does seem like a lot. Okay, make sure kind of the takeaways from this, make sure you understand what the confidence interval tells us. Make sure you understand the four-step process for calculating it. Make sure you understand where the formula comes from and where on your calculator to find it, as well as in the formula sheet.